My name is Vinny Mori. I'm from Los Angeles, California. I've been barbering for 19 years and I'm a proud member of the BaByliss Barberology family. So for this cut, I'm gonna go for more of a classic traditional style. The first part of my haircut I'm gonna do is going to be debulking. I wanna try to clear my canvas, take a bunch of this excess weight off, and then start to get it ready to detail in the actual style for him. I'm gonna use our Snap FX for our debulking. So I will start off with a number 2 guard, and I'm going to open it all the way, which is elongating our taper arm, bringing the guard to its longest point to maintain the most length. And I'm actually gonna come straight up and give a very heavy wedge out because I wanna create a classic shape and encourage this length to push the shorter hair backwards. For me in traditional hair, it's all about movement and making sure that this hair is all moving backwards with his head shape because it's really heavily silhouette based. So that's what my focus is gonna be when debulking. What I love about the Snap FX right now is how much it's coming with our Boost Plus motor, so it's able to really clear out any kind of product, any kind of buildup, extreme weight, or cut through any kind of really heavy texture. As you see right now, my model's hair is actually damp, and the Snap FX is not getting any kind of follicle grab, it's not snarling or bogging down at all. That Boost Plus motor is slamming right through all that weight, making it really nice and easy for me to just clean the canvas. I have our BaByliss Pro Premiums. There are metal-backed premium guards. I believe these are coming with the Snap FXs now, so these will come standard with them, and they're fantastic. They have a nice extra weight to them, and they're a hard rubber, so you don't get any guard bite or wear down on the blade. RPMs on a clipper is insanely important for me now, especially after all the years that I've been working in the industry. We've had so many scenarios behind the chair, and if you're like I am, I work behind the chair every day still. I love to be on stage, I love to travel with my family, but this is still my bread and butter, working behind the chair. Everybody still comes in straight from the gym with a motorcycle helmet, wearing a baseball hat with their hat mashed down to their hair, and it really makes it difficult and puts a lot of strain on clippers. All of us have felt that moment when you dig your clipper in and it snags and you feel it pull. That's a very uncomfortable experience for a client. Snap FX Boost Plus motor has eliminated that. We don't have to worry about follicle grab. Even if you're sweating, damp, or with product, it's gonna slam right through it. So it's a true workhorse, and I really love it. And it makes for a much better experience for your client as well. So what I really like to do is I like to encourage people to think less about a C-scoop motion, because I think that gives this idea, which is not a very natural motion. I am allowing my clipper to come straight up, like I'm using my arm as a lever and my elbow as a pivot point to just fall straight away from the head shape. So as my clipper starts to hit the round of his head, I'm just pulling off and allowing it to create this nice wedge, which is almost like a bailout area for us that I can use in my connection or transition points. So I'm basically really allowing his head to determine where the fade will lie. Now that I've gotten all the bulk off, I will actually go in and start detailing from the bottom up. Honestly, it's something that I learned when I was originally training under my mentor a long time ago, and he basically encouraged me to get the scariest part of the haircuts out of the way first. So for me, that is something that's stuck. And what I like to do is I like to take my skin and get right into exactly where I want to see that skin laying. Now I'm taking my FX3 trimmer, which is zero gapped, and I'm taking it like I would a clipper and allowing it to naturally run off his head in a very small section. What I love about being a part of the Barberology family is that we are mixing barbering and cosmetology together. So as what we do with barbering, we would do in cosmetology as well. It's still working a section, we still have a line of demarcation, it's just in a much smaller area. So we're working a very concentrated area right here just along his sideburn and beard connection. That is now my new line of demarcation, so I know that I'm not gonna rise above that line, and that gives me almost like a marking that I know I can't go above until I'm ready to make the next transition. And for all those cosmetologists, I actually am going to use this as well, which is our UV double foil shaver. And this is actually adding a service. So this will take you down to a skin fade, actually shorter than what a straight razor would do. So this is what's gonna allow me to give him that skin feel down at the bottom. And I'm connecting into his stubble from the trimmer. What I like to do first is start by pressing a little bit above my area and then pulling down, going with the grain, and then coming up and going into the grain. as that blends it right away and I don't have to worry about another line. Then I'm gonna actually grab my brand new influencer signature series Nicole Renee Low Pros with the fade blade. With these low pros, we actually did something really incredible. We gave an extra half click on our patented detent locking system. So this now elongates longer than any of our clippers ever have, which allows for a much smoother blend and transition into your next guards or into your next open corner cutting section. And that has been a real game changer for myself. It's allowed me to work a lot less with our lines, and it's allowed the fades to blend and become much softer and easier, not such harsh transitions. So now I'm gonna take it all the way open and make my next line of demarcation, which is very slight again. There's no rules. Anything and everything I say is just the way that I like to cut hair. For me, this is just my guidelines. I like to see, as I'm stacking up on his temple area right here, I wanna see a nice transition from light to dark. So I wanna take each section a little smaller than I would normally for a low fade, simply because I'm working in a smaller, more condensed area. I am gonna leave a ton of this weight here on the outline. So because I have my traditional idea and style finish in my mind, it's allowing me to work through my roadmap as I progress through my actual transitions in my clippers. So this line is just simply aesthetically where I want it to sit. And if you notice, when I take it, everything I'm taking on my sections is at a diagonal. So it's almost following his head shape. If you see the corner of his eyebrow slanting down, I use the corner of his eyebrow to take my section. That way everything's going to be encouraged to look like it's moving backwards. Because in traditional hair, everything needs to be moving backwards. Now I close it all the way down and I start at the bottom to work out my line. And our fade blade, being much thinner than our wedge or our taper, allows you to take out that fear and allows you to work through your process a bit quicker, because what it's doing is it's taking a lot of that heavy lifting out for you. Although the general rule of thumb is you can take out any line with the same tool, this actually breaks that rule, because this is taking out the line that this put in. Because of how much thinner in diameter our blade is, it allows you to get really, really tight to the skin. I like to use my clippers, and I tell everybody this: do you need 8 clippers to do a haircut? No. But what I like to do is set them up in a plug and play system. So when one is 0 gap, the next one is also connecting to a fade blade. So I know that my fade blade will take out my 0 gap line if I'm using it in up motion. If I go in and set my line straight, I would have to use the same tool again to break that line. I just like to use more tools, to use a plug and play system to expedite the time that my client needs to sit in the chair, which by expediting his experience makes it pleasant that he gets a great service in a timely manner and then gets the next person into my chair, which allows me to up my value as a stylist and make more money. So now that I've blended that line out, I'm gonna get to my FX3 clipper. My FX3 is probably one of my favorite tools ever that we've made. This was a heavy game-changing tool for me when I first came to the brand. The serrated blade inside of our clippers, the serrated edges are in each tooth. So each tooth has its own edge on the inside, which allows it to actually sink in and grip the hair tighter and then cut it cleaner in one shot. So this is a very, very unforgiving clipper that I love so much, especially for removing thick, coarse hair. I'm actually using my number 1 guard all the way open to set my next line. I will work that all the way down from open to closed. Next, I'm gonna bring in my lithium ion. This actually does have our wedge blade on it. And this is actually something that is very, very new to me as of Anaheim Premiere, which was 3 weeks ago. I adopted the cutting style that Patty Cuts uses a lot, and I've eliminated my half guard. And it's the first time in 19 years I've ever tried to get rid of another tool and slim down even more so. So this became a real game changer for me as of 3 weeks ago. So it's a new technique to me that I really, really love and finally committed to. So even 19 years in, I'm very open to learning and changing my style of cutting, which is what keeps me super inspired in the industry and makes me really happy and excited to go to work. So what I am gonna do is open up my lever all the way, making it at its longest point, and I'm gonna come in and start corner cutting all the way through my number 1, which is then going to take out that line and effectively connect where I would have used a half guard and rework my entire step over. This allows me to freehand blend out any inconsistencies that I don't want to see and it allows me to make a very crafted, smooth blend for each client. And it's something that I've watched Patty do for years now, and I finally implemented into my own, and it's become a complete game changer for myself. So I'm really super excited that I challenged myself to jump into this, because it is hard to make an old dog do new tricks, but I'm excited that I did it. And I'm only cutting with about 2 or 3 teeth. This allows me to work through the fade and craft it all by sight and pick and choose where I want to lighten up any dark spots or inconsistencies in the head. Every client's head is different, every head shape is different, and every hair growth pattern is different. This is something that I finally adopted that allowed me to truly craft the blend to each client. And it's really something that makes me excited about cutting hair again. As I finish that, I'm gonna go back to my original Snap FX with a 1.5, and this will be the last part of my transition into my blend. Take my 1.5 guard all the way open and coming right into my originally cut area. Nothing up here has changed since we originally cut it with our 2 open. So now my 1.5 will connect into that, and that will be the last of my clipper work. For fading, it would then go into my transition, going all the way into my top, which I will also utilize a lot of clipper over comb cutting through here, which we'll show in just a sec. A large pet peeve for myself too is I also have to work through this beard area. Down in the connection between sideburn and beard, I can't ever leave a client walking out of my chair like this. To me, it's just way too unkept and it drives me a little crazy. So I also like to make sure that I'm able to come through and corner cut all of this and make sure that I'm giving him something smooth that he can leave with. Leave my chair, go straight to dinner, work, whatever it may be. What I really love about our new Lithium ion trimmer set is their weight. They have a very light weight. They still have a very high RPM and they still are a very sharp trimmer. But for me, it's always a little interesting whenever I mess with new tools because I've gotten so used to my weight of my heavy metal collection. This did take me a second to get used to, but I've also heard from a lot of cosmetologists that don't have as big of hands as me or something that this is a very nice, consistent weight. And after playing with it more and more, it did become something I really love, especially working around beard area with sensitive skin. Then made my hand get a little bit lighter and made it more of a pleasant experience. So the weight has been fantastic. Power is still amazing and it's everything you come to expect from our tools. The weight has been a total game changer on this one. Especially something to consider when working in sensitive areas of skin, that it could really nick or dig into somebody, and that's not what we want to do. We want to make sure our client has the best possible experience. The only clippers that I have personally that don't zero gap are ones I use for bulk removal. Everything else I really like to keep sharp for zero gapping to make sure that I can get these nice crisp lines. And having different trimmers for different functions really does help a lot. These are ones I really like to use right now for beards. Look up just a touch for me. Thank you, sir. Right body position for me when doing a beard underneath is I like to stand exactly in front of where I'm working. I like to tuck in the corner a little bit higher and almost make a V, which shoots down to an open angle on the beard because we're making a line on a round surface. If you encourage a V, once you put your head straight, everything starts to look very, very flush. And I was actually taught that by the one and only Mr. Official, who is the beard lord of our team. So ever since he taught me that, it opened up my eyes to how much easier beards can be made, which I really appreciate. What style of beard to do on people is always very interesting. I believe it's so heavily personal preference for the client to suit their lifestyle, their career, and how much effort they will put into it. Knowing things about your client and their lifestyle really does help affect the outcome of their style. You cannot give somebody something that's unmanageable for what they do. If they get up at 5 a.m., the last thing they want to do is put 15 or 20 minutes into blow drying their hair. They're going to require something that's a bit shorter, a little bit more wash and wear. So I think in the client consultation, everything kind of presents itself. So whenever I am working with a client, I do like to ask certain questions like, what is your job? How much time do you spend in grooming? That way it allows me to know what I can give them that's easiest for their lifestyle. The process becomes the same in each area until we get into our connections. So I will go back again with my FX3 and create my skin line of demarcation. Because of my zero gap on this and the blade being a bit smaller than the Gold 2.0, this one does have the stronger motor that allows me to use it for bulk rather than the little bit softer motor that I use more for facial hair, especially because of that light hand touch and I don't want to mark up my clients. The reason I like to use my scoop is because then I'm not creating such a harsh line that requires workout. When I scoop, just like my clipper or when I actually use the head shape to just use an upward flicking motion, it creates a little bit of a ledge, which then isn't such a harsh line to work out. So it became about time for me. If I sit here and put in a very hard line, it then takes extra time to work out. And I do find that a lot of clients have sensitivity on their skin to having a blade pressed in. How many times have we seen someone leave a shop with a big red line across their back of their neck? It's something that creates a less pleasurable experience. So for me, I always try to make it a little bit pleasurable as well as an expedited process. And it allows the transitions to happen a lot quicker, so I'm not holding my client hostage as long, working lines out of his head. And going back again with my Nicole Renee trim fluencer, clip fluencer, all the way open to set my next line of demarcation. One thing I do like to do, especially at the back of the hair, this is something that was taught to me very early on in my career by an older barber who I very much appreciate and was my mentor for a long time. What we do have on the back of short form haircutting is the skull structure comes into play very heavily. How many times have we all sat and worked out a very nice fade and then the person goes walking out in the parking lot, you see a wavy, squiggly shine line. Although the fade looks very correct and even to our eye when they walk outside, the shine line starts to wave a little bit. That's because our skull structure is playing in. We're creating and playing with shadows. Because of our mastoid process bone here in the back behind the ear, he taught me to cheat it a little bit more in a U shape, almost like a horseshoe sectioning, and to take it a tiny bit shorter underneath the mastoid process. That way it accounts for any kind of shadow because 99% of life are light sources from above. So that actual tiny little bump can create a wave in your shine line. So that was a trick that he taught me that really helped me not have that bat tail fade look. And then I come back to my FX3 with my #1 guard all the way open at its longest point, still following a tiny bit of that U horseshoe sectioning. Not as drastic as before because at the next point, it will actually even out and go back to straight. One thing I also really, truly love about our FX3 series is the center mass locking detent. Every time we use our taper arms, especially if you're a left-handed clipper, it's very hard, or a left-handed cutter, it's very hard to reach over and use the detent arm. This eliminated that problem for us. So right here in the center mass is our actual thumb locking detent arm. So it makes the tapering really comfortable and really easy to work through just with the thumb. Something I really, really love. It's such a cool clipper. I think it scares a lot of people in the industry, but I love it. I use this clipper twofold. I really love it for my #1 section. It's great for my transitions, I found, but I also exclusively use this clipper for clipper over comb because of those serrated teeth. It allows it to grab, hold, and cut so much cleaner, especially through my transitions, which we'll see in just a sec. And to my Lithium to then corner cut away this last bit. How important is it to invest in your tools? Well, for me, I think it's one of the most important things you can do. That's not a sales pitch. How many times do you buy things that are actually giving you money back? For us, this is what makes us our money. So it's really important to invest in your tools, and even more so, it's really important to understand your tools. You have to love the things that are paying you. Just like you have to love your clients that are paying you, we also have to love our tools. Maintenance on tools, sanitation on tools, which is also protecting our client, and it's elongating the life of your tool. I still have my very first pair of clippers I've ever used, and they still work fantastic. My very first prototypes that were ever given to me at BaByliss, I still use and are fantastic. If you take care of your tools, they will take care of you back. So investing in our tools is paramount, especially because this is what we use and need to do our jobs. Back to my 1.5, and now everything starts to level out underneath our original line of demarcation, which was our 2 open. We work out this last section. Starting to really like the way that's shaping up. Next, I'm gonna get into my transition, which I am gonna go back and use my FX3s for. The transition part, a lot of people get a little weary of, and I love to relate this for our cosmetologists to scissor over comb or palm to palm cutting. This is virtually the same thing. All we're doing is stacking weight. What we need to do is take this extreme short and this extreme long and connect the two. For me, the way I love to do it is freehanded by using my sectioning, which becomes my comb, and my tool of cutting choice, which is my FX3. And I use his head shape to bring out a bit of weight and just start to walk the weight off. As I pull out and bring the hair to its most expanded form. Whenever, if we remember back into our cosmetology or barbering school, whenever we did our head sheets, they always had these arrows that pointed up and away from the hair. That's something that always stuck with me because we cut hair off the head. We don't actually cut hair on the head, except for our small detailing when we get into our fades. Everything else with length becomes off the head. I like to use that still every day behind the chair by elongating the hair to its most expanded form out and cutting it at one plane. I'm over directing the hair slightly forward to encourage it to move backwards. I'm gonna beat that to death. When it comes to traditional, we love to see the hair motion backwards. There are 3 elements to building a haircut: tension, over direction, and elevation. TOE, the toe method. Tension, how hard or soft you pull the hair away from the head. Over direction, how left or right, forward or backward, up or down. And elevation, high or low. So those are the 3 ways that we're able to encourage hair to move. So by over directing the hair forward, it maintains the length and pushes it backward. By over directing it high, it stacks the weight and allows it to sit a little heavier, or low creates a line and makes it more heavy. And as we see, with no product in the hair naturally does start to move a bit backwards. By over directing forward, it encourages that movement back. That's what we want to see. Next, I'll get into a touch of my detailing, go into the top. For my detailing, I am going to use our Low Pro Nicole Renee's. I really love the weight of these, and it allows me to keep a more steady hand while drawing the outline. For the traditional hair, I just want to encourage his features. I don't want to rework his hairline. So all I'm going to do is take these small hairs that are jutting outside of his hairline, and I'm just going to make sure that those get clipped off and cleaned up just to make it a little neater. My model Sam has very thick, very coarse, very straight hair, and he grows a lot of it. So his hair really supports a nice bold line to show the features of his arch of his eyebrow and the arch of his cheek here. That's something I like to enhance. And by outlining the front, it does show that natural curvature and makes more of a striking outline. Then around the ear, I like to make sure all this hair is pulled down. And the same thing, we're gonna go ahead and bring that arch around the ear. Keeping it as low and tucked in as possible. We never wanna bring it too high or take too much off and create a white wall effect, which is a big white piece of skin all the way around. We want to keep it as low and as clean as possible. Some people like to start this the same every way. Mine totally depends on the client's hair growth personally. Sam has a lot of hair growth that goes down into his ear, so I like to start behind and come into it as I'm catching that hair that grows backwards. A lot of people like to start from the front. Totally fine, whatever you're most comfortable with, but for me, this is the reason why I do it this way. Once it's clipped off, I'll come underneath and just make sure that I take all of that under the line away. Manipulating your client's ear is a must. In our industry, we break the physical barrier almost immediately. Upon our client sitting down, we drape them, we touch their neck, put our Sanex strip on, and immediately start touching their hair. It is totally okay to make sure that we manipulate our client's ears. You don't need to pull or tug or hurt them or cause any kind of discomfort, but it is okay to pull it down and move it and manipulate it to make sure that you're able to clean up and make sure you get the best result for them. A lot of times I notice people are very scared to get in there, and it's okay. You're not gonna hurt them, I promise. Now as this flows around the back of his ear, just gonna draw a bold outline that I bring as straight as possible. And then I just turn my clippers upside down, catch any of these stray hairs that may be coming off of his neck. Lastly, again with the double barrel foil shaver, I'm gonna take all this underneath the hairline, get all the last bits of stubble, connecting all the way from the beard and the hair. For me personally, I like to use the foil shaver most because a straight razor is a crude instrument. It is a single blade that is really unforgiving and tends to pull hair from the follicle out. It's an uncomfortable experience for me as a client. I've gotten away from it over the years. With the advancements in technology, I do have to advance with the times. A lot of traditional barbers will sit there and tell you to die by the razor. That's totally fine. If you're one of those people, I do not knock it. I also do find how much of our clients are now dealing with skin issues, irritation issues. Some people deal with sanitation issues. For me personally, I really like the foil shaver because it eliminates almost all of those. If you're susceptible to razor bumps, if you're susceptible to red markings, skin breaking, or burns, the foil shaver eliminates all of that. So it's a safer, more sanitary, and a smoother process that is less uncomfortable for your client. For me, it's just a lot easier. So I like to mix this nice bold outline with our traditional shape and create the fade underneath like that. Now for the other side, I'm gonna repeat my process, connecting his sideburn into the extreme length, run through the clipper over comb, and detail this side. Then I get into my scissor work to finish through the top. So that is our final style and our finished product. Again, my name is Vinny Mori. This is the Proper Barbershop for BaByliss Barberology. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you took a little something that you can take, apply to your repertoire, and make some great money with it. Appreciate you.